Hi, folks. I'm Sean Crabtree.
And I'm Cameron Bailey.
We don't want to change the way you do business.
We want to change the way you're thinking about your business.
We want you to have better results, happier clients, and make more money.
Let's get it started.
Welcome to the show. I am your host, Sean Crabtree, and I am so excited to have a very, very, very special guest. We're on location in Dallas today. We come to you live each week, bringing you content on how to have better results, happier clients, and make more money.
Make more money.
Make more money. So today is a very special. I'm honored and I'm humbled to be in the studios of a gentleman by the name of Matt Manero. This is someone who's had a very personal impact on my life. What an incredible story. What an incredible journey. And if you're driving around and you're listening, you're going to want to pull over. If you're watching, you're going to want to make sure that you have the ability to take notes, because today is going to be a very, very impactful show. Welcome, Matt Manero.
My pleasure. I'm happy to have you, my friend.
Listen, I am really, really excited for you to be able to tell your story and sort of, you know, what this journey has been for you. But let me start with a couple of questions first. Okay?
Sure.
A lot of my listeners may not be very familiar with the Matt Manero story.
Yeah, there's about 6.99 billion there, so it's fine. I get it.
So tell me, let me just start with this. You have a $100 million company, right? You are, by every stretch of the imagination, successful in all aspects of life, because I know you. Here's what I want to know. What's the DNA of Matt Manero? What's the story? Where did Matt come from? Who was Matt in high school? Let's start there.
Look, man, thanks for those compliments. It's my pleasure to have you here. I mean, like-minded gets like-minded. We know people, and that's why we're together, right? So right. I think that's an important takeaway for anybody. I mean, you gotta run in the right circle. It matters. But, I mean, to answer your question, I was a very good athlete in high school. I had full aspirations to play college football. Then I got hurt. I had a bad neck injury my senior year in high school, and that sort of killed everything. As far as athletics goes, I was not a good student. I didn't care about school. I thought football was going to take me to college. And I ended up applying to one school, and I got in, and it was a cooking school, and I went to be a chef. And that's literally how it went down.
A chef.
I had no idea, and if the strings that had to be pulled to get me into that lousy college. My mom ended up She worked for some guy when she was like in her 20s, and the guy had become like an administrator at this college, and she called him up and said, "Hey," and we went in, and it was a pretty quick interview, and I got accepted to the school, and. But, you know, that was a perfect moment for me, because I was a troubled kid. Not trouble like in the law or things like that, but, you know, my real dad left when I was 6 months old. I never saw him again. My adopted dad was a tough guy. He loved me the best he could. And I loved him back, love him to this day still, but it was a very challenging setup. I was different, and I knew it, and I just couldn't wait to get on with my life.
What do you mean you were different?
I was telling my wife last night, and you know, we've talked this morning, the story of my brother-in-law, which is the reason for my new book, but my middle son was playing football on Monday night against the town that my brother-in-law lived in and his family live in today. And my niece, his daughter, came to watch the game. And I've never mentioned this to anybody, but the relationship with that side of the family, my brother-in-law's widow and his children, has been strained since he passed. The reality is, I think it's just too ridiculously painful for both sides to see each other still. That's an excuse. It's not a legitimate excuse, but it is reality. And so when she was there, she was playing with my boys. My boys are just so wonderful to them, and back. The kids are kids, right? I mean, they don't see the stuff that the parents see.
Sure.
So they throw the football and they love on each other and they have fun. Yeah. But she was walking away, and I yelled to her. Her name is Zoe. I said, "Zoe!" And she came running over to me, and I came running over to her. And it reminded me of a time as a kid where I was probably 12, 13, and our football team had made the county playoffs. And I didn't have anybody to take me. And I remember, I was just telling my wife this story the other day because I saw the visualization of it came right back to me in that moment. Because I saw it in little Zoe. And I remember going through the phone tree, right? Who could I go get to take me? Now, my old man wasn't going to take me. Just, that did not exist. There was no chance that I would reach out to him or he would even think to take me. As you would to your daughter or I would to my sons, it would be an automatic. We're going to take them to community events or whatever, right? It never happened in my upbringing with my old man. No problem. I mean, it is what it is. But I remember reaching out to my uncle, who had 2 boys who were big football players, and I always wanted to be around those kids, right? And he promised to come and get me for that game and take me to the game. His kids weren't playing in it. We were all going to go. And you know, he never showed up. I waited at the front stoop, and he never showed up. So to answer your question of what kind of kid I was always the outsider. I was never on the inside. I was always on the outside looking in, and that has stayed with me forever. I'm still that guy.
You're still the outsider.
I am still the underdog. I am still the scrapper and the fighter. There is no top of the hill for me. I don't believe there ever will be because of the way I look at it. Now, it's a blessing and a curse, right? I mean, I'm not whining about it. It is what it is. But it's funny. Never thought about it ever until I saw little Zoe at that football game just this past Monday. What's today, Thursday? I saw her Monday night, and that whole memory came back to me. First time in my life I remembered that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, you know, one of the things that and you and I have talked about this, one of the things that I preach to my guys is somebody once said that success leaves tracks. You are a successful guy. I've learned that the greats, the people that are really great, and you and I just had this conversation, the people that are really great learn from other people's experiences rather than getting sort of knocked around. And we talked a little bit about this. You know, I was the stubborn guy. I kind of got knocked around a little bit. You probably have had more knockarounds than I have. And I think there's value there. I mean, there's a lot of things that we could talk about, Matt. And I have to tell you, I'm really honored and humbled to be in your presence.
Me too.
To be able to bring this to my guys. But one of the things, and you can take this where you want to go, one of the things that I have so much respect for is you were in a great place in your business. Mm-hmm. You were in a great place in a lot of aspects in your life. Things were comfortable. But you decided that I'm going to take something that's good and I'm going to tear the damn thing down to the floor and I'm going to make it great.
Yeah.
Now, I just did some research on this the other day for a podcast. Less than 5% of Americans are entrepreneurs. And I know your thoughts on that. Less than 5% are entrepreneurs.
My thoughts are that's too many.
That's too many.
Yeah, most people should not be an entrepreneur. They are not cut out for it. They're not capable of handling the pain required to be an entrepreneur.
The ups and the downs.
The ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, and then just the overall time factor for success as an entrepreneur. Everybody thinks it's going to happen overnight, and it's going to take time. And most people aren't willing to deal with that. Most people won't take a step back to take 2 steps forward. And you have to do that multiple times in your entrepreneur journey.
Exactly.
So what does that mean? It means you have to take a pay cut to hire someone that has a huge question mark on top of their head. You have no idea if they're going to work out. You have to pay them for months and months and months to see if they play out. And you make less during that period of time. And you might lose. So you hire the guy for 10 grand a month and you wasted 30 or 40 grand on him out of your family's money to lose. That's the entrepreneurial journey. I mean, you have to be willing to deal with that. And most people can't deal with that. And so they stay real small. Right? But if you want to scale, you have to do that.
Well, and it's interesting because as I did this research, I was also trying to figure out, okay, so 2 questions. What is it why are so few people, I was looking at it different than you, why are so few people entrepreneurs? Okay. And the other question is, those that are entrepreneurs, what holds them back from going to the next level? Now, there was an article in the Harvard Business Review that says the number one reason, or the number one answer to both of those things, is because the comfort is easier to stay into rather than to roll the dice and have the risk to be able to get something great.
Well, yeah, I think there is greatness working for somebody else. I mean, our number one guy in here is a 7-figure earner, right? He doesn't hire anyone. He doesn't fire anyone. He doesn't manage anyone other than himself. So sounds pretty great to me. So there's greatness in all great companies for people who aren't the boss. And I mean, the number 2 person at Facebook that nobody's ever heard of is worth billions. So is that not great? So I don't believe everybody needs to be the boss. It's inherent in a guy like me and for you and a lot of people. You can't work for anybody else.
Right.
I mean, I learned that very early in my life, right? I couldn't take orders well. And so
it's a good and a bad thing. I mean,
totally.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier about me thinking that I've never had a mentor, and that's probably an immature way of looking at it. I probably had a lot of mentors. I was just too thick-headed to see them. And so I just don't think it's a bad thing to work for somebody else. I really don't. I think most people should work for somebody else. And they have to make sure that they choose the right environment, though, right? I mean, it has to be connected to their superpower. I'm a huge believer that I spend 0 time thinking about what I suck at. None. Even this morning, working out with my trainer, I say to the guy, why do I got to do this exercise, man? I'm not good at this exercise, Give me something. Like, can't we go back to biceps, man? Right? Why do I have to do these push-ups on dumbbells and then pull it for the back, right? I hate this exercise, man. I'm always fighting against what I don't do well because there's a lot of things I don't do well, but there's a few things that I do really well, and that's where most people should live. And as you just saw, as we were coming into the studio, I introduced you to the 2 most important people in our company. They're project managers. And they do all the stuff that I don't do well. And they do it like it's their superpower, right? Those 2 ladies that I introduced you to, Sarah and Aaron, are the greatest puzzle piece putter-togethers you could ever meet. And they thrive on it.
Okay, so let me stop you. So are you saying that that's one of the key components that has your business fly is you recognize what you suck at.
Yeah.
And you bring people in.
But I also recognize...
You understand that goes against the grain big time.
I also recognize what other people are really good at. And that is something that was a skill that's been developed over the years. I used to think that everybody was going to be like me and they wanted what I want. And that's not true. We do personality testing in my office, which tells me that ahead of time. And that's a massive game changer for us when we put that in place about 3 years ago. Both from a hiring standpoint, but then a positioning standpoint. Everyone in business should do personality testing. And we share all the results with everybody. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was talking to somebody recently who told me that they literally hang the person's results on the door of their offices just so you know what you're about to walk into.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so the key is you're saying recognize what you suck at. And
don't do it.
Everybody should be writing this down. Recognize what you suck at and realize that in order to be great, you got to have people who have strengths in areas that you suck.
Yeah, average works on both. Greatness works on superpower. That's it. I mean, and you can go down the list. I mean, they say Steve Jobs was a freakazoid visionary, but he was a pretty bad guy, right? Yeah. Pretty lousy father and husband, I'm told as well. I never met the guy, but he's remembered for his greatness, right? Average focuses on both. Greatness focuses on superpower. Awesome. You should spend no time on your weaknesses. But how do you figure that out, right? I mean, you need a mentor maybe to help you. You need a parent that might help you. You need to do some self-exploration. And you need to probably take a personality test. I mean, you need to take a test that says here innately who you are. So you ask about DNA, and everyone spends this whole life trying to find out what your DNA are. You did it, I did it. We didn't have to wait this long, man. We could have taken a personality test at about 18 or 20 and had a pretty good idea of what career paths we should have gone in.
Right.
That's what I was telling you earlier. If I had done that, or if somebody had told me what to do, I would be worth hundreds of millions today and have my own jet, because I would have gone into the private equity field, which is perfectly suited for my mindset and what I do now. It just pays a lot more. Mm-hmm. So, but nobody told me that.
Okay, so a lot of people probably are not cut out to be an entrepreneur. You and I are of that cloth. I want my guys who are listening and watching this to gain from you, okay? What did it take for you to be in a very comfortable place and be willing to tear it down to get to an even bigger place? And, one of the things that you showed me is the overall vision that you have at this company. You showed me the core principles, which I spend a lot of time with my guys, understanding the purpose of all of that. But that came from exactly the journey and what you had to overcome to be able to do that. So tell us.
Well, it starts with the owner having crystal clear clarity of the type of business that they want. What is the vision for the business?
Are you saying that you didn't have that?
I
you
didn't.
Were comfortable?
I didn't. I only had a vision of revenue, and the whole goal was to get to $100 million. By the way, that wasn't the goal on day one. The goal on day one was, how do we pay the bills and not work for somebody? That was the original goal, and then that took a long time to achieve that small goal. And then there was a level of complacency at that period of time too. I mean, I wasted a decade. I should have been where I am today 10 years ago. I wasted a decade fighting through complacency and sort of flatlining and all that stuff. A lot of insecurity at that time too, a lot of self-esteem stuff and all that too. No mentorship, no network, and I have a very strong network now because I focused on building a network. But
so at the time, you were at the top. I'm speaking in terms of the corporate sort of layout here. You were at the top. You're kind of like the solo guy. You guys are doing well. I think $35 million company, something like that.
It took me 18 years to get this company to do $36 million a year, and that was a very nice living for me, right?
Sure.
In comparison to it was a very nice living by any standard.
Right.
But then I read Grant Cardone's 10X rule. And literally, that book changed everything. If you can believe that, right? I'm in business 18 years. I'm not sure. I don't know, maybe 43, something like that. And I'm 48 now. And I learned about this concept of potential. Can you believe it, though? I lived 43 years, and no one ever told me that I shouldn't be competing against my competition and my neighbors and my family and my friends, that I should only be competing against myself. I did not understand that concept, and it instantaneously was like pouring jet fuel on the fire. And I've said this to Cardone, it was the first time in my life where I felt like I got permission to just kill it. And I took the blinders off. I reached out to a very successful guy, which is important for people to understand that you will be promoted to your level of incompetence. At some point, you need to reach out to an expert. I mean, that's your business.
You will be promoted.
You will be promoted
to your level.
You will earn your level of incompetence. Yes. And so I reached out to the number one guy in the equipment finance industry, and I said, I've heard wonderful things about you. He said the same about us, and I said, I'd like to hire you to build me a 3-year strategic plan. And I paid him top dollar to do it, and he did it. And I'll never forget how it went down. When he sent me that plan, I was in our old office. I bought a building because someone told me that most small businesses, when they sell, the equity in the building is bigger than the equity in the business, so everybody should own a building, which I think was bad advice.
Yeah.
Building was too small, and it kept us hemmed in for too long, right? Because I thought I'm building equity in this building, and I'm holding back on the growth of the business.
The shoes determining the size of the foot.
Yes. So when the guy sent me the numbers, I remembered I was walking in the parking lot of that building, and I said, there has to be a mistake. There's no possible way that I could make this much money. I said it's impossible. And it gives you an idea of how small-minded I was thinking, right? I didn't understand that the fish grows to the size of the tank. I didn't understand it. I also didn't understand that business is really a math game. you know? And he reminded me of that. He said, you're focusing on the wrong numbers. He says, you're looking at the top line number and you're looking at the bottom line number. And he says, those numbers are meaningless. You need to focus on the middle. Can you execute on the middle? Can you do the marketing? Can you cut the expenses? Can you hire the right people? Can you put the management team in place? If you can do that, it is just a math problem. Wow. Again, it clicked immediately to me and said, well, if it's just a math problem, then all I have to do is focus on the middle, right? That's the hill I need to climb. Boom, count me in. And it took us 18 months to execute that strategic plan to get the company to $100 million. And so it took me 18 years to go to 36 million. It took me 18 months to go to 100. And it would not have ever happened if I didn't reach out to the best possible person I could, pay up, take a step back, pay this guy big money to build me a strategic plan that I agreed with, I trusted, and then to execute.
Help me understand, okay? And for everyone who's listening or watching right now, this in my view, this is key, okay? Going back to that article I just mentioned, the number one reason that people are not entrepreneurial, or that they if they are entrepreneurial, that they don't take it to the next level, is because of their own comfort zone and their avoidance of risk in favor of that comfort. But you trashed it.
Yeah, right. We did.
So what did it? I mean, what was the tipping point? What was the?
Yeah.
Why? What happened? What was the?
I missed your question. I missed your question. I told you how we got to 100, but your question was, well, what'd you do at 100? And we torched it. I completely destroyed the company at $100 million and said, there's no chance we're going to get to 200 or 300 or $1 billion. I just knew it. And entrepreneurs know it about their business too. They can feel it. They don't need data points. Most entrepreneurs.
So what were you feeling? Okay. What was going on?
I'll give you very rudimentary, fundamental examples that I knew it was breaking. Walk around a corner, two people are talking, they shut up. They're talking about you, man.
Wow.
They're talking about you. That's why they just got quiet.
Right.
You walk around a corner, you hear a click on the mouse. They're looking at Facebook or shopping on Amazon. They're not working towards your mission or who you are or your goals. Dude, you've alienated yourself and you're living on an island, and most entrepreneurs can't even see it. But everybody else in the company is seeing it, and you think everyone's bought into your vision, but you can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you just said, I would submit, there are people, you guys are listening and viewing this right now, and I would submit you just experienced what you just said. If you're listening to this and you're watching this, you just went around a corner and you saw something, and the question is, did you ignore it? Did you avoid it?
Right.
And you chose not to.
Well, it's also, what are you willing to tolerate? And what I was not willing to tolerate was, why would they stop talking? Why had we created an environment in which anything couldn't be talked about at any time? And in the old days, I would have gone ballistic and said, why aren't you talking about business? What the hell are you talking about your personal lives for, right? Now, at that point, I was saying everything should be okay to talk about, because I do want to know what that personal problem is, and I want to help you fix that personal problem. Now, look, I'm blaming other people. The reality was, at that time, I needed to change too. I mean, we have a morning scrum on Mondays, 9:30 every Monday. We used to do it every day. And they were just, at first they were motivational, and then they became complete horrible beatdowns. I mean, I was a bad guy in those morning scrums. And unfortunately, I would pick the worst person with the worst numbers, and I would call them out in front of everybody, and I would tell them why they suck and, you know, what's their problem and all that stuff. And so I really had to torch a lot of my own things too. But I set a goal. I said, I want to be a world-class leader. And I'm not a world-class leader. And I don't have a world-class company either. I just have a company that is doing well, but really breaking. It's fragmented, it's coming apart. And I could just feel it. I think entrepreneurs know it. So I just went back to...
I think they know it as well. The question is, are they willing to do something about it?
Most people are not willing to change what they're willing to tolerate, right?
So if you're looking in the camera or speaking to somebody right now who's listening to this, what do you tell them is the lesson that you took away from that, from that one piece? What's the thing?
I would say that business is a reflection of the owner. And so if that business is doing well and people are happy and profits are being made and revenue is growing and clients are coming back and they're leaving you reviews on the internet, you're probably a good person. And if that stuff isn't happening, you got some work to do yourself. The business is a reflection of the owner, period.
Period.
And
If you want to know how well somebody is, you look at their team, you look at their business. I mean, it's a clear indication. It's a total reflection.
I want you to walk into my office and make your own decision on whether this place is legit or not. By the way, in our interview process, we do 3 interviews. The first one is with me usually. A lot of people think that's wrong, right? I should be the last person that does the interview, but I want to filter it.
Okay.
The second is they meet with everyone else in the company. Everyone else. They will sit with 5 minutes or so. And the third interview we do is we will give them customer service surveys for the last 50 deals. So we'll do 50 deals a week in here. We'll give them last week's deals, totally unscripted. They will call that customer and ask them on a scale of 1 to 5, did we return your phone calls? Did you like doing business with us? Did we save you money? And the most one,
you're kidding me.
Would you do business with us again? Because I need that employee to hear what the customer says about our company before they agree to come on with us.
Holy smokes, you got to write that down.
Every single person will do those customer service surveys. Yeah. And by the way,
before they're hired.
Before they're hired.
Wow.
And that's not for us. I mean, the surveys are nice to get. It's for them. They need to say, and I'll remind them 6 months later when they're sort of, in a slump or something, I'll remind them and say, you remember when you did those surveys and you got all 5 stars? It ain't us, pal. It's you. Something changed in you, right? The company's still getting 5 stars. What happened? But by the way, we also get to hear them on the phones, right? I mean, if you can't make a customer service survey, how are you going to make cold calls?
Right.
And our guys make a lot of cold calls. So, there's a self-serving interest to it as well. It's not just all for, tree hugging stuff.
Okay, so let me take you back to this, because this is what's valuable. And for if you're driving down the road right now, or you're sitting and watching this
with your wife and your kids.
With your wife and your kids, right? This is key. When you torch the place, because I spent a lot of time in this area with my guys. The first thing you did is you created your purpose.
Well, the first thing I did was create my vision.
Okay.
I had to think, what did the company need to look like? And most owners do need to understand it is their company. And they are responsible for the success or the failure of it. Even if you're somewhat removed from the day-to-day operations, you're still on the hook, right? It's your line. It's your personal guarantee in most cases. I mean, it's your business. You have the liability.
Some pretty serious soul searching here.
It was. So I determined what did I want it to look like. The second thing was that I had to create an announcement of what we were going to do. I needed people to see what the future was going to look like. And I said to them, let's get together, morning scrum, and I said, I'm going to torch the company. And we're going to call it the torch, by the way, and we're going to get to mission statement, and we're going to do core values. We had already had 4 core values, but we'd gotten so far away from
them.
They were the exact same 4. Those 4 core values were established in 2001.
Okay.
But there was no mission statement, and without a mission statement, the core values don't make any sense.
Right.
I have a friend, he says to go a step further, and he calls it a catalyzing statement. My buddy Rick Sapio has a wonderful TEDx talk on the importance of creating a catalyzing statement. Catalyzing statement is bigger than your mission statement. The catalyzing statement is JFK saying, we will have a man on the moon. Rick talks about in his TEDx talk about Volvo saying, we will build the safest car in the world. And when an engineer who cares about safety hears that, he says, well, maybe I should go work at Volvo. Right? And that catalyzing statement begins to bring the right people to you. Right. Mission statement does a similar thing. Right. What the hell do you stand for?
Right.
What do we call it? Exist. What do you exist for? So that's crystal clear. And then the core values are really the operational functions. What are the 4 things that you... for us, it's 4. I don't think it should be more than 4. And by the way, ours don't need to be my business. Those 4 core values of company profits and happiness, preserving your reputation, and delivering value to the customer, loyalty to the customer. I mean, those work anywhere.
But that's important, because those are your 4 core values. And when I come into your business, that's the first thing I see right as I walk in the door.
Yeah.
And the very first one is profitability.
Company profits.
Company profits.
Yeah.
So there are people who are listening to this and going, oh my gosh, you know what? I don't feel, maybe I got some personal hang-ups about making money myself.
Sure.
How am I going to put that on my wall as a core value? You see it as, listen, explain how you see it.
Well, I mean, we connected.
I see it the way you and I are connected at this.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time on this.
Company profits matter to us because we connected to our creative spirit. I can't have a studio with fun times of like-minded people talking like this if our company isn't making money. So, by the way, you don't
There's
even
no reason to apologize for that.
You don't even need to put company profits. You can just put personal profits. I mean, your family life is better when you're flush, period.
Right.
So people are so afraid of having surplus money. It changes the game when you've got tons of cash. It fixes problems. Yes, you can buy your way out of problems. My wife and I got into a fight a month ago, right? She'd been talking about these shoes with these red soles. I do not know what the name of the shoe is, but I see the Kardashians wearing them, right? Got into a big fight. Guess what? 2 pairs of those shoes came. They're $1,000 a piece. That's a $2,000 bill to fix that problem. Guess what? Problem went away real fast, right? I mean, that's how it plays out, man. I mean, people, you can buy your way out of problems. I wish I could remember the name of these shoes. I think they only sell them at Bergdorf Goodman or something, and I'd never heard of them and would never in a million years think of it. But
that's a valuable lesson. I mean, because the reality of what you say is absolutely true. But the fact that you're willing to put this out there in a transparent way and go, look, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be able to take care of you as a client at the highest level unless we're flush. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to apologize about that. As a matter of fact, it's one of our values.
Well, I would say to one of your clients, I would say if you ever got pushback on it, and the hard part is you may get pushback that you never know about. So have you created an experience in which your client can give you that feedback? Are you asking for real reviews?
Right.
And are you looking at those reviews?
Exactly.
But, Mrs. Jones, you wouldn't want me operating on you with a lousy piece of equipment, would you? Equipment changes every 3 years. I need the best stuff, and in order to get it, I need money. I need good financial statements because the bank's got to loan me the money. I got to do it. So, you want me to hire great people up front that treat you with respect and treat your children. You like this playing area that I have in the front office, right, for your children while we're doing our deal. I have to have money to do that sort of stuff.
So I made a statement one time in front of a large audience that I was speaking at, that my belief is that a profitable, well-run business takes better care of its clients than one that is not. Dude, I got murdered.
Really?
Isn't that
Wow.
amazing?
Yeah, that's the only people that murdered you on that are the broke ones. Right? I mean, does anyone hold it against Apple that they make so much money? Nobody holds it against Apple that they make so much money. I mean,
So
people
why do you
love
think
Apple.
that? All right, so why do you think, what's the disconnect?
They have
is it
a
because
lousy-
Apple is far away, right? They're not connected. It's such a far away
I
thing.
think Apple is very close. I think Apple is, you have diehard Apple fans
That's right.
that make fun of Windows fans. So I think Apple is in everybody's heart. I don't see it as this big conglomerate out there on the West Coast. I actually think people are diehard Apple fans wherever they are, and they're deeply connected to it. And they don't
What's the
begrudge
latest
Apple.
phone? Like $1,000, right?
I think
Isn't
it's
that
the
right,
X.
guys?
Yeah.
The latest one's like $1,000. Yeah.
we go to you guys to tell us that, right? But I don't think. Anyone who's fighting the argument that profits don't matter and getting rich doesn't matter and being flush doesn't matter, they don't know what they're talking about. Because I got the book coming out, which is the story of my brother-in-law, who died at 46. He left a wife and 4 kids. He left them with no health insurance, no life insurance, and $100 in the bank. And if you, for 1 second, are going to tell me that money doesn't matter, I refuse to feel your energy. You're wrong. I saw it in a dying man's face, the pain and the guilt that lack of financial success was causing him. And then my wife and I were in a position to drop in and remove that. We did that for him. I would have done it. I would have done it without the crazy love my wife had for her brother anyway. But it gives you power in that regard too. When you can remove that, and my brother-in-law John, I talk about in the book, said when we were talking about money, because I the girls went in to fix the health issue, and I went in to, make sure that everything, the business side of it, right?
Right.
And he tells me that, he's got no life insurance, zero. I mean, listen, for $50 a month, you can buy a term life insurance policy that'll get you $100,000. He didn't have any. $50 a month, he could have had $100,000.
And he's got 2 kids.
4 kids.
4 kids.
He had no health insurance at all. And then he had $100 in the bank. I talk about it in the book. It actually got worse than that because he told me that he was 10 months behind on his rent. And I said, it's impossible. Wow. There's no way no landlord would ever let you get 10 months behind. And when I called the landlord, he was such a smoozer and so handsome and so good with people that she had let him get 10 months behind.
Wow.
And so her first question was, what are we going to do about the back rent? I said, no. This is called I'm not fixing the back rent, lady. I'm just telling you that the future rent will get paid. But I'm not fixing that problem, right? But it's powerful when you're in a financial position where you can go in and you can remove that. So, and he asked me at that money meeting,
how old was he?
46. He reached his hand out, grabbed my arm, and he said, "Don't let my family go homeless." So that's pretty powerful stuff, man. And
Right.
if you're going to fight me on the idea that having money doesn't matter or it shouldn't be an important factor, you're just downright wrong. It's just not true. You haven't lived through some real pain that shows you how money can't fix cancer, but it can fix a lot of pain connected with it.
And the fact that you were able to come in and be in a position to help, is part of the reason that you didn't set out to write a book.
I did not want to write that book. I just
But you
wrote
had
a
a
short
story.
story. I wanted to purge my feelings of it in a short story, which I did. The book is called You Need More Money. Originally, the book was called I Need More Money, right? I wanted to connect in that regard with the reader, that it wasn't that I have and you don't. I believe I need more money because the more money I got, the more people I can help. The greatest financial...
I love that.
The greatest financial contribution I've ever made in my life was to my brother-in-law. So, whatever charitable donations, whatever material goods I bought, the greatest money I ever spent was taking care of his family during that year. He died almost 1 year to the day. And, that was the greatest money I ever spent, ever. And so when you do it, you say, well, God, how many more people can we help? And so in the book, I call it lifestyle by design. I mean, once you're on purpose, man, and you're building your lifestyle design, money only amplifies your lifestyle by design. So you want more money. And so I wanted to call the book I Need More Money, and then the publisher, which is Penguin out of New York, forced me to change it to You Need More Money. And I said, I don't understand why you guys want to change it. And they I suppose they know book sales better than I do, and they said, because nobody's going to be seen reading a book called I Need More Money. Right? They use this.
I would have never thought of that, right?
They said no one's going to sit on the beach in the Hamptons and read a book that says I need more money.
Right,
They'll read a book that says you need more money, but they won't read a book called I Need More Money.
Right.
And I said, okay, that makes sense. I agree with you. So we changed the name.
Right.
And the book comes out March of 2018.
You Need More Money.
You Need More Money. And the first part is the wake-up call, Sean. The second part is a roadmap, and the wake-up call will freak people out. Everybody I've given a copy of the book to proofread it has come back and just, been scared after the wake-up call, because our financial situation is an epidemic. People are behind, and
you experienced it, right?
It's nothing to be afraid of.
Firsthand.
It's nothing to be afraid of.
Right.
Being behind is nothing to be afraid of. By the way, we have this massive baby boomer situation that's going. I deal with it in my world. My mother has no money. She lives on Social Security. And my mother-in-law lives on Social Security. Right? So we have this greater requirement to not just take care of ourselves, but we have these aging parents that most are highly unprepared for retirement. The average Social Security benefit is $1,366 a month. Right? $16,000 a year. So I mean, what kind of life is that, right? So we have all of these things between college, between living expenses, between retirement, between healthcare, between all this other stuff, and we don't put enough attention on how do we create a money-making machine. And the roadmap helps with that. I don't know that it's 100% solves everybody's problems, but it gives a tremendous amount of fundamentals that if somebody doesn't know where to start, it does.
When does that book come out?
March 20th of 18. You can pre-order it right now on Amazon.
So how do they do that?
They go to Amazon, type in "You Need More Money."
You need more money. Gotcha.
And "You Need More Money," Matt Manero, and the book will pop up, and they can place it. I haven't overly pushed pre-orders yet because of the because I think 5 months out is a little bit too early to place your order, and then you're like, "Where's my book? Where's my book? Where's my book?" Well, the book doesn't come out, right? But by the way, anybody who's interested in writing a book, it's absurd how long that process takes. The process is so ridiculous of how long that they bought the rights to that book in November of 15.
You're kidding.
They bought the rights to that book in November of 15, and it will come out in March of 18.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how long it takes to get a book through the publishing system. It's crazy.
To me, the most exciting thing about what you just said is that book was born from a personal experience and had no intention of becoming a book. It was something that you felt like you had to kind of unpack yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're a very passionate guy. It's obvious.
But Sean, could you imagine if that book does as well as I want it to do? Isn't that the most unbelievable tribute to my brother-in-law who never had a pot to piss in? He couldn't. My brother-in-law had a problem that a lot of people have. He was in the wrong platform. My brother-in-law should have been a pastor at a church, and I used to tell him that all the time, and he knew it. But he was so financially handcuffed to the car business. He knew that he could make enough to support his family. He could not take that step back that we've talked about. If someone had told him early on what he should have done, it was crystal clear. His connection to the church, the love that he felt from the church, the value that he was capable to bring in a church environment was just, it was a superpower for him. But he could never go after it. And he couldn't make 2 + 2 = 4 financially, right? It was always 3. And wouldn't that be amazing if we end up writing a book that sells a ton as a tribute to him? And that would really just be something special. One other thing my wife was saying, because the ramp up is pretty extreme right now, and she was asking me the other day, are you sure you want to do all this, right? And I said, I'm telling you, someone is going to buy that book, and they are going to buy term life insurance, because there's part in the book where I say, put the book down right now, go to Google, type in term life insurance in your city, and buy as much of it as you can.
It's that important.
It's that important. Right now. And someone will do it, and someone will pass away, and they will send me a note that says, thank you for your book, because if I hadn't read it in your book, we wouldn't have been set up. And do you know that I've had already tons of emails from people coming in just off the podcast that have said, I went out and bought term life insurance, I went out and bought term life insurance, I went out and bought term. I have no connection to term life.
Right.
I'm not promoting term. I don't even know who to call. Call whoever you want. Mine's through Prudential. You call whoever you want. But
right.
Which, by the way, is kind of smart, right? If sooner or later we should start connecting with the term life insurance. Right? I recommend term life. So.
No, but I mean, at the end of the day, make more money. You need to make more money. I believe that. I also share what you said, which is that, the more you make, the more people you can help. And you're living proof of that already.
So are you, man. I mean, that's your life's mission too, is to help these practices make more money, do better. You're not going in there and saying, hey, you're making too much, let's ratchet it back. You're telling people the same message.
Yeah.
All the smart people tell you make more money. I got a guy who's a billionaire, just got a check last year for $924 million, is officially a billionaire, and his biggest concern is, can I do it again? Was I a flash in the pan? Was it did I hit the lottery? Was it a one-shot deal? And can I do it again? The idea that these guys are on, Mark Cuban says it best. He said, when I became a billionaire, I thought my life would be easier. My life has gotten harder. I'm busier. It's more difficult.
Right. Okay, so let me ask you about that real quick. So where does the drive come from?
Mine?
Now, yeah, but
or these others?
Well, no, yours. Okay. Because there's somebody who's listening and watching right now, and they're going, you know what? I've been doing this for X number of years, and I'm coming in, and there's these problems, and I don't want to deal with that crap, and there's this, and there's that, and you don't understand. I mean, it's tough out here, and and all of that, and they're kind of in that place in their head. Now you went the opposite way. You were in a comfortable position, and tore it down to build it up better. It didn't need to be torn down, but you did it to make it better. What do you say to the guy or the gal who's listening to this, and they're going, yeah, but you don't understand. I mean, it's tough out here, man, and I'm not enjoying this.
Yeah, well, that's why you're not enjoying it, because you don't know what you stand for. I mean, you don't. Listen, we the best teams have the best camaraderie.
Bingo.
I want to work around people that I like and who like me. And there are lots of environments in which the employees hate the owners and the owner hates the employees. And I just don't think that's a spot you want to live. Because
life's too short.
If you're hated at your office, you're probably hated when you walk through the door at home. That's too. Right. And conversely is true. If you're loved at your office, you are probably loved at home.
So how long did it take you to create the
torch
vision here? The vision.
At the 100 million mark, how did we figure out the torch?
How long did it take you to create that vision that I see when I walk in?
Yeah, that mission statement took about 4 months.
About 4 months.
Of weekly Tuesday morning coffees with my executive committee. I created an executive committee of my most trusted people, and I said, here's a blank piece of paper. Let's draw it out. And the most difficult word of that was the last word, which is gratitude. Right? It was started with thanks, appreciation, and I kept pushing and saying, I think we can do better than that, because when someone tells me I appreciate your business, it doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
Or when they say thanks for your business, it doesn't mean anything. But when somebody says I'm grateful for your business, man, I stop in my tracks and be like, whoa. So that's what we did. And then, but the whole thing. It's important, just as a side note for your audience, the real pressure point was not the mission statement or the core values. It was the employment contract. And we issued a new employment contract.
Which came from, hold on that. Okay. So the vision that you spent, or the mission statement that you're calling it, you spent 4 months with your executive team coming up with that.
Yeah.
Now, so how is that used? Is this... we talk all the time that, I think Zig Ziglar said you have to be before you do, and then you do before you have, and it works in that order.
Yeah.
And if you go from do to have, there's no longevity in it, right?
Yeah.
So your mission statement is what for you?
Well, it is the guiding force of the company. The mission statement is CFF exists to assist our customers and ourselves reach their full potential through expertise, expectations, and gratitude. And those are really important words. Exist is an important word. Potential is an important word. Expertise, expectations, and gratitude. Most people in most businesses have no idea what they are expected to do. Period. They do not know what you want from them. Here's a big thing. Most people are hill climbers. Most people want to do well, but they don't know what hill they should be climbing.
Exactly.
And when the leader tells them the hill, they will climb the hill and they will say, give me another one. And the leader has to give them another one. And so this component of expectation is so important.
That's a huge bonus sentence right there. That's a bonus.
Great leaders see that.
You are the leader. Recognize that you're the captain of the ship, but recognize that your goal is to set the boundary and the direction.
Your employees suck because you haven't given them the expectation that they can achieve. Because once you do, you will see lousy employees become great employees.
Awesome.
And you will also see lousy employees who won't handle the pressure anymore, and they will leave, which is another aspect.
As long as you're holding the culture to that.
It's tough. It's tough to do it.
But that's your role.
It's your job.
You have to.
So people say, what do you do around the company? And I say, I'm the keeper of the culture.
That's it.
My job is to make sure that everything we do connects to the culture.
That is That is absolutely it. So you created this vision, you are the keeper of the culture, and then you created employment contracts around that.
I created an employment contract that when I got it back from legal was like 25 pages, and I said, "This is ridiculous. I don't need
It needs
this."
to be a page, right?
I think it's 2 pages,
Right.
but I said I only wanted to say this, and you guys word it however you want. You can leave the company at any time. You can go in business with a competitor. You can go into business for yourself. You can go to business in our industry, and you can compete against us. And we will never come after you. You just can't take food off our table. Means you can't take your clients.
Right.
That's it. You can start your gig and go for your American dream, but you're going to do it the way I did it.
Right.
And you're going to
It's blood, sweat, tears.
you're going to do it with no customers,
Right.
and you're going to figure out your way to go ahead and win. And I want you to win. I will not sue you unless you try to steal from our company on your departure, and then we will come after you guns blazing.
So how'd that go?
7 people left. And
Really?
they were some of my top dogs. And by the way, key component to a torch, no side deals. You cannot waver from it. And so every one of those guys came in and said, hey, this employment agreement, because I think I issued it on a Monday, and I said I want it by noon on Friday. I said, talk to your lawyers, talk to your friends, do whatever you want.
But Matt, help me understand that. What is there to negotiate about? I mean, and I'm sure there's some legal jargon in
A little bit, but not
what
much.
you just said, but the gist of it is there. What is there to... In other words, I'm trying to get a picture of, if I'm part of your team, what could I possibly have to be okay with
I mean, listen, everybody's got a plan A and a plan B. The reality was I knew it. I just wanted to smoke out who was on my team and who wasn't on my team. I didn't expect everyone to sign that.
So it's about, are you on board? That's what it's about.
I was very clear, and when I launched it, I said, I want to know who's on the team and who's not on the team. And those who sign this will be on the team, and those who don't sign it will not be on the team. And
as a leader, as what I call the captain of the ship who's watching this right now, okay, they're not paying attention to those kinds of things. That is the most important thing. What do you say to that person? After what you've experienced, what do you say to that person who's going, you know what? Listen, I'm just coming in trying to do my thing, man.
Well, I'm just trying to survive, man. I don't have the ability to make changes to my top sales guy because I need his revenue. I can't piss him off.
Exactly.
That's a very fair statement. And I would say to that person that that's not worthy enough. That's not enough. Maybe you need to sell your house, man. Maybe you need to sell that Mercedes. But I would rather drive whatever than work with someone who talked smack about me behind my back, because that person is stealing from you in so many other ways. I mean, you have this new wonderful hire. You can't wait until you're out of the office and that person gets to them and they're like, oh, don't believe a word he's going to say. I mean, it's all, don't believe any of those core values and mission statements. He's not up to date. That's not what this company is. You're dead. That new employee who was so excited on day one, that person's going to fall in line with the culture. I just can't discount it enough. By the way, for those people who think that we were so flush that it didn't cost us anything, it cost us $30 million. And in my personal income, that's I probably
a chunk.
$1 million. I probably made $1 million less through that torch. And that goes into a lot of other things. I mean, I can live, I don't live crazy, because I want to make moves. I don't want to be beholden to my house payment, man.
Exactly.
I want to make moves.
Right.
So, by the way, did I talk to my wife about it? Not once. Never mentioned it to her. She never worried about it for a second. That's
Really?
important for your team, as you already know. I mean, you got to have a very powerful spouse, husband, wife behind you who
Got to be support.
they have to be supportive. Lions got to run. They can't be chained. They got to run. So I never even talked to my wife about the torch. And my wife is not involved in my business. Maybe some people are lucky enough to have that. It's just not. It was never part of our setup, right? And she never worries about it. Her stance is, go get it. She used to worry about it when I wasn't bringing home the bacon in the early days, right? But she doesn't worry about that stuff anymore because she knows that I'm going to win and I'm going to provide. And that's a huge mindset too, Sean. People just got to decide that they're going to win. I say to my guys all the time, stop talking about the middle. Right. You got to win, period. What was your win for the day? One guy yesterday told me, I had this good conversation with a guy in Tulsa. I'm like, that's your only win for the day? Come into my office, man. Let me help you with it. I'm like, come on, man. I'm not here to beat you up, but you need to hold yourself to a higher standard of what a win is.
Let's set a bigger goal.
That's not a win.
Right.
A good conversation with a guy. I'm like, dude, you should have 10 of those a day.
Right.
So, look, it's a big deal what we're talking about, this torch. And I get all sides
$30 million.
of it. Cost us $30 million. By the way, that isn't in a calendar year, by the way, because we didn't start January 1 and end on December 31st. That is over roughly about a 12-month period of time. But when you annualize it, we actually went from like 113 to 108 million. So it was a very crushing 6 months that the results of the torch made it back.
Right.
It has hockey sticked since then. September was the best month we've ever had in the history of the company. October was very, very strong. So my point is a hockey stick, if they look at a hockey stick, that's what has occurred after the torch.
Like the graph is what you say, the check mark.
On a graph, on a check mark on the graph. But it was a very challenging 6-7 months. Because remember, I had those people who didn't sign the employment agreement, they were stealing customers. They were allowed to steal it because the previous agreement we had didn't have any real meat.
What are these guys making?
In my office?
You're in the middle. No. You're in the middle of you've made a commitment. I'm going to tear it down and make it bigger. Mm-hmm. Here's these guys who won't sign this thing. Yeah. They're earning. You said they were your top guys.
Well, the guy who did the best, who left in 2015, made $567,000. I did a speech on it, and I actually put his W-2 up on the screen. I whited out his social and his name, but I put his W-2 up on the screen and said, that's how committed I was. And I say
because because what you're saying is for him to make that, the loss for you was tremendous.
That's a $600,000 or $700,000 hickey for us right out of the gates, right? So how committed are you to it? And I understand the argument of, well, I couldn't lose that guy. And my response to you is, you're losing so much more than that guy. Yeah. It's killing your company. So here's the crazy part. And that guy's got 6 kids. And I think it was the dumbest. He was with me 12 years, by the way. There's no chance he will go out into the marketplace and make that kind of money. That's the problem. People think that they can do what other people. Right. He has no IT department. He has no media department. He has no operations department. He has no accounting department. He has no marketing department. And yet he thinks he's going to duplicate his income.
Right.
It's ridiculous. But that's how much he hated me.
Well, to me, it's how much you're committed to.
What do you stand for? What do you stand for, man? What do you exist for?
What are you willing to stand for?
Are you willing to get that kind of clarity in your personal life?
Listen. You are the epitome of what commitment means. You are the epitome of just grit. And I know that was your first book, right?
It was. Mm-hmm.
That was your first book.
Yeah, that was a great book, but it was a narrow-minded book. It was written by a gritty guy. It wasn't written by a leader. I'm proud of the book, but and by the way, I make no apologies for the mistakes I've made. Everybody's got to do what they got to do to get their piece of the pie. I say anything legal, anything. So as long as you're not breaking rules, you got to deal with it. So look, I don't know if you know about this, but I on that Hank Norman podcast that I did with our friend Hank. Mm-hmm. Yep. I called a guy out on that first podcast. I broke my cardinal rule after the torch. My cardinal rule was praise in public, problem in private. Right? And I used to do it the opposite way, right? And I said, I will never do that again. But the podcast the book is different than my business. Do you see how my mind looks at it?
Right.
And so I go back to these early, gritty, lion red meat mindset on the promotion of the book and the podcast, and I do not look at them as the same.
The same, right.
I would never do that in my business, but in the new business of the book, I only know how to go back to zero on it.
Yeah.
And I called this guy out. I didn't even think about it, right? It just came out of my mouth enough. And the guy listened to the podcast and then called me out and said, I'm so disappointed that you presented me in that negative light. And I responded to him and I said, you're right, man. I'm going to take that podcast down. And I did. Now, Hank Norman's a big guest. He's got a lot of influencers, all that sort of stuff. It was one of our most popular podcasts, and I took it down because of the way that guy was presented. And then the guys were like, hey, that was a pretty good podcast, What if we edited it out? So I went back to the guy and I said, listen to me. I'll leave that podcast away forever. We unpublished it on YouTube. We took it down. And I said, but I would be interested in re-uploading it because I think it's a good podcast and we'll edit out your name. And he said, that would be great. I really appreciate it. I do think a lot of people could learn from it. And
Really?
he says, I've thought about it so much, I'd be interested in telling my story on your podcast as well.
You are kidding.
About why.
What a great story.
Yeah, so he's going to be on the podcast and we're going to talk about.
Great story.
We're going to talk about why I felt so vicious about, because I've helped this guy along the way and he's not taking my advice. That's why I lashed.
Right.
The question came in from Hank and I just responded with such a lashing. And anyway, I mean, look, man, it's all about transparency. It's what Hank tells you and I.
Yeah.
You have to take the blinders off, man.
Be willing to go after it.
Don't be afraid of it, man. It's nothing to be afraid of because the reality is somebody else is going after it for you. If you're not doing it, somebody else is. Everything is crowded, everything is cloudy, everything is commoditized. No dentist, no finance company has it figured out that much better than the next guy. It's just how willing is the owner and the team to get their piece of the American pie. By the way, when we all go out in the marketplace, we get our piece of pie, it doesn't mean anything to GDP. Mm-hmm. It means nothing. My Wells Fargo does $3.2 billion in transportation financing. Mm-hmm. We do 100 million plus. It's nothing.
Right.
It's a pimple on the butt of the industry. Right?
Yeah.
So go get your piece.
Go get it, man.
Go get your piece, man. Take the blinders off.
So, Matt, how do these guys get to you? How do they find you?
There you go. Matt Manero on all social media channels, mattmanero.com. Got a great TEDx talk that's up. They can type in Matt Manero TEDx on YouTube and see it. The book comes out March of 2018.
You need more money.
You need more money, and let's make it a bestseller.
Last thing. What's the one thing you tell to the young guy who knows he's a lion, he doesn't have the direction? What's the thing you tell him? Or her?
Take a personality test. Honestly, there's plenty of them. And I have a podcast where we talk about Find Your Superpower. There's 2 free personality tests on that podcast. So you can take them for free and I'll tell you what you need to know. Take a personality test and then figure out 1 or 2 or 3 career paths that you think you might want to take, and then go find the most successful person and take that person out for a cheap sandwich. And if they say no to you, go find the next successful person. Somebody quickly will say yes to you, and they will help you. What I'm getting at is find a freaking mentor. Don't do it the way you did it and the way I did it. We've both achieved, but we wasted a lot of time.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. That's fair to say.
Put yourself in a position to not waste time because
It's out there. All you have to do is go find it.
the thing that amazes me about the millennials, and everybody bashes them and I think they should stop, is we thought we had to climb rung by rung by rung by rung up the ladder of success. These millennials
They don't see it that way.
They're totally comfortable. Dude, I'm like, am I moving fast enough for these millennials, man? Is somebody going to come in and figure out a better mousetrap in equipment finance?
Exactly.
Right? So they're moving at a pace that is changing everything. And so, man, this idea of complacency is just something just despicable, right? I just hate complacency. I won't do it. And nobody else should either. So don't waste your 20s. Get after it. Don't waste your 30s. Don't waste your 40s. By the way, don't waste your 50s and your 60s, man. They're still talking about it in the book. Quick math problem. You put $2,000 a month away at a 6% annual rate. For 21 years, you'll have $1 million. Right. So if you're 45 and you are totally behind, $2,000 a month at a 6% yield, which you can get in an individual fund. At 65, you got $1 million. Now, I don't know whether the $1 is going to be enough, but it's better than zero.
Exactly.
What about 45?
Yeah.
So 45, you start putting $2,000 a month away, and at 65, okay, so you got $400,000. At 75, you have $1 million. It's not too late.
Right.
By the way, 55, what if they started with $4,000? at 65,
Same math.
it's
Right.
better math because you're putting $4,000 in instead of $2,000 in,
Right.
so it's compounding much faster. Things begin to change. What happens if you do it in your 20s?
Astronomical.
I run that out in the book, and we talk about legacy wealth. There are chances, if people literally just start funding early enough, as we all kind of know the impact of compound interest, but where people can get to an 80 million, a 90 million, $100.
It's almost
$100 million.
unfathomable, right? Yeah.
If
the
you
numbers
started,
are crazy.
If you put $6,000 a month away, because there are guys making that,
Yeah,
right? You
right.
live in an apartment and
Right.
making $100-some thousand a year, 25, which is
Sure.
happening.
Yeah.
You can bury $6,000 a month.
Right.
And if you do that for 20 years, you could, in your retirement years, have tens and tens and tens of millions. But most people won't do it because they want to go to Cabo, or they want to go to Vegas, or they want to buy those stupid shoes with the red heels. Right?
Or they want to put it on black.
Your wife got any of those shoes with those red soles?
She's got plenty of the others, not the red soles.
You ask her, she'll know what shoes I'm talking about, man.
Matt Manero, it's
Thanks,
been an
Sean.
honor. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
I feel the same way about you, buddy. Thank you.
Take care.